people were saying that we support the Muslim Brotherhood. We don't support, we support the Egyptian government. We supported them during Mr. Tantawi. We supported them also during the Prime Minister Issam Sharaf. We supported them during Ms. Morsi, and we support them also during the former President Adli Mansour, and we still support them. So something to do with the Muslim Brotherhood. We know that Muslim Brotherhood, after what happened in Egypt a year ago, after the coup that happened in Egypt, many of them left, and some of them came to Qatar because they were threatened and they were afraid. So yes, they were in Qatar, and they were safe in Qatar as long as they didn't practice any political or any ideas. They're always welcomed in Qatar.
Are they still there?
Some of them are still there. Some of them are leaving because they believe that this is the moment for them to practice politics, and they know the rules of the country, that as long as you're here, you cannot practice politics against any other Arab country.
As long as they're in Qatar?
As long as they're in Qatar.
Hamas, will you continue to support Hamas?
We support all Palestinian people. We believe Hamas is a very important part of the Palestinian people. As I said, we have differences with friends that, for example, they consider them as terrorist groups. We don't. Simply because they're a very important component of the Palestinian people. Going back to history, nearly 10 years ago, we were asked by the Americans if we could talk to Hamas to make them participate in the election which happened in Palestine. And we spoke to them very honestly. It was my father who spoke to them, that we were asked from our American friends that you participate in the next election. And so their answer was, we will, but do you think will the international community accept us? So my father said yes, because I was asked by the Americans for you to join. So it happened. So the thing is, what is the difference between Hamas 10 years ago and Hamas now? I believe the difference is that Hamas are more realistic now. They believe in peace and they want peace. But it's for the other party to believe in peace as well and to be more realistic.
Under your father, there was certain reach out between yourself and Israel, Qatar and Israel. That seems to have gone by the wayside. In fact, an Israeli top diplomat calls Qatar Club Med for terrorists. What happened, and how do you react to that?
Well, we believe in peace, and we, since 1991 and 93, as the Oslo and after Oslo, we believed in peace, and we helped a lot in trying to make a bridge between the Palestinians and the Israelis. I think the war in Gaza a few years ago, of course, after we cut our official relation with Israel, the amount of dead people and innocent people, that is why, as I said, we cut our relation with Israel. But in the same hand, we believe that the only way to get out of it is to have peace between the Israelis and the Palestinian, because we believe in peace, and this is the only way that we should all work together to put pressure on both sides to reach the peace solution.
Security is very important. We have economical challenges, we have many challenges, but I think the security, due to what's going on around our region. We say we're stable, yes, we are a stable country, but what happens in Yemen and Egypt and Syria and Iraq, it affects us way or another. And the longer it takes, the more effect that we're going to be affected by. There's something very interesting that we are working on very, very hard, and we know that it's going to be a great challenge, is depending on the oil for our income. This has been a challenge. If we go back just 100 years ago, more or less 100 years ago, our country and the country around us were depending on selling the pearl. But after the pearl farming came, and our Japanese friend found this new system, we were broke. So we were in trouble. Now, when the oil came, we started breathing again. We are, in the 70s, we faced a big drop of oil prices. We were only depending on oil. The same thing happened in the 80s and the 90s, and now as well the drop of the oil prices. Yes, we are a rich country, but we have to see what we did to be in this level. In mid-90s, when my father first took over, the oil price was so low, how much was it? $8. And we were in trouble finding money to pay salaries. People don't think that we are a rich country. No, we had our difficult moments, but the way how to challenge them now is how to have other resources than the oil price. We know that one day that we will not be depending on oil and gas. When? I hope it's going to be long, but I don't know when it's going to be. But we have to be depending on other things. And one of the main things that we're doing is we're investing. We're having a lot of investment, and to make sure that things go all right. As I said, the main investment we did was in education. And this is the challenge, and these are the youth that in the future will be running the country and will make sure that our economy stays stable. A few years ago, when the Arab Spring started, if you think of it and go back 4 years, you didn't hear any terrorist attacks, any terrorist movements. Everything was quiet. All those youth, they had, they saw the future. They had ambitions. They thought that they're going to have a better future when they did when they started this Arab Spring. Now, the problem that we're facing now is the counter-revolution. We call it a counter-revolution. People call it other names, but we call it counter-revolution. Now, if those youth, we don't give them a chance in participating and sharing power, because this is what they wanted. They wanted dignity and freedom. If we don't make them participate and put them in jail or no jobs, this is what I call hopeless. They'll be looking for other things. Now, going back to giving examples, some of the youth that stood up against leaders, dictators, they were moderate Muslims, but they were moderate. They believe in living together. They believe in democracy. After the counter-revolution, some of them, unfortunately, went to terrorist groups, and we have them by name, and we know which party they were, and they were not even an Islamist party before. So this is when I mean hopeless. You have to give them hope for the future. This is what I meant in that. And we don't, of course, I don't like saying that because I'm Muslim, but we should never tie terrorists with our religion, because terrorism doesn't have a religion. Every religion had terrorist movement one day in history. So we shouldn't tie this to our religion. But hope is the most important thing we should give to our youth. When the Syrian people stood up against Bashar al-Assad, asking for freedom, dignity, you can go back and you can check. There weren't, all of them were youth asking for dignity and freedom, and there wasn't any terrorist movement. We said that from day one. If Bashar al-Assad doesn't find a solution in solving this problem, we will be facing terrorist movement, because the way how he was treating his people, killing his people, young people, if we don't find a solution, we will find terrorist groups that nobody can control. Now, it's important for people to understand how this thing started in Syria. They were asking for freedom, dignity. 15 kids or 12 kids in the age of 12, 13, 14 just wrote on the wall, "Leave Bashar al-Assad, you have to leave." They were put in jail. Some of them, their nails were taken off. And those are young boys and boys. Now, if you're gonna see your child being treated like that, just because he did something small on the wall, and you forgive the regime, but you ask just for your child to come back, and then after that few days, the regime start killing his own people. What do we all expect this atmosphere? What will this atmosphere create? It will create terrorist movements that we are facing now. Now, what I always say, and I also told that to the president, yes, it's important that we have to face terrorist movement. It's a threat to us and to all of us, to everybody. But we have to see what caused all this. And we have to make sure that if we're going to fight these groups, that these groups don't come back again. Because if we fight them and if we leave the main reason, they'll come back again in the near future. So it is difficult, but we have to face two things. There is the regime that's killing his own people, and there is those terrorist groups. Unfortunately now, in Syria, there is terrorist groups and there's regime. People tend to forget those millions in the middle that demanded for their freedom, who are the important people, who we should all support for in the future of Syria. This is how I see things.
Welcome to the Palestinian Corner from Montreal, and this is our 46th episode devoted to the current Emir of Qatar, Tamim Thani.
We have to see the difference between movements. I know that in America and some countries, they look at some movements as terrorist movements. In our part of the region, we don't. But if you're talking about certain movements, especially in Syria and in Iraq, we all consider them terrorist movement, and we don't accept any fund for those, and we don't accept anybody funding those. There's differences between some countries of who are the terrorists and who are the maybe Islamist groups, but we don't consider them as terrorists. Such as groups in Syria, groups in Libya, groups in Egypt. We do recognize extremists. We believe if they're extremists, we believe that they're extremists, and we don't fund extremists. But there are differences. There are differences that some countries and some people, that any group which comes from Islamic background are terrorists, and we don't accept that.
هل من الإنصاف أن نبذل جهدا لاعتبار تيارات سياسية نختلف معها إرهابية على الرغم من أنها ليست كذلك؟